Technological crisis in the Russian defense industry. The army of the Russian Federation is experiencing an extreme shortage of weapons. Most notably, there is a shortage of missiles for waging war in Ukraine.
These are the ones that have precision and accuracy due to the microchips that they have. But because of sanctions imposed on Russia, the deliveries of this high-tech microchip equipment have stopped, and they have no way of replenishing these stocks. According to our information, Russians have already spent almost half of their weaponry arsenal. Denis Shmyhal, Prime Minister of Ukraine, in an interview with Politico.
According to US intelligence, in half a year of war in Ukraine, Russia has lost 3,000 to 4,000 tanks and armored combat vehicles. Almost all of the high-precision weapons of the country have been used, and Russia cannot produce new missiles because of the sanctions imposed earlier by the United States and the European Union. After all, most of the components for Russian missiles, microcircuits and semiconductors are foreign-made.
Russia
has fewer and fewer chances to buy these technologies from other countries. There are not many players on the world stage who can sell these technologies. This is not a large list of countries that, in principle, can produce these high-precision technologies, and of course, Russia has never had them.
Regardless of the failure of the so-called special operation in Ukraine, the obvious technological crisis and problems in the economy, Putin is not going to end the war. By all means, the Kremlin is trying to overcome sanctions and continue supplying its army with weapons. Politico published a list of components that the Russian Ministry of Defense is now actively trying to obtain. It even specifies the prices that the Kremlin is ready to pay for each item. The list includes semiconductors, transformers and connectors, but the priority is microchips and microcircuits manufactured in the United States and Japan.
Moscow is actively trying to buy microchips, connectors, conductors, housings, transistors, isolators for high-precision weapons. And they are even starting to send these purchase offers to private companies. But these companies, these countries understand that the risk of selling technology and components are very high. It threatens them with financial losses and withdrawal from the market completely.
The wish list of Moscow must remain unrealized. This is the purpose of Western sanctions against Russia. These sanctions, among other things, concern the supply chain of components which belong to the category of dual-use goods. This means that they are used both for military and civilian purposes. The refusal of the United States, the European Union and Japan to supply components to Russia forced Putin to search for weapons in Syria, buy drones in Iran, and even consider an offer from North Korea to buy artillery there.
This is a disgrace. This is what is going on with the Russian army's weapons. Just imagine, the Russian army is buying drones from Iran. Just imagine that. This is the one that is the second army of the world. The second army of the world buys missiles from North Korea. It's a shame, a disgrace.
The Kremlin relies on the supply of components from China. By the way, the process of selling, for example, chips and microchips is difficult to trace.
The controls on chips are about as tight as a screen door. China and Russia share a 4,300-kilometer border. There is absolutely no way we could detect if those chips are passed from China to Russia. Matthew Turpin, US National Security Council Director for China from 2018 to 2019, in an interview with Politico.
Experts say it is now impossible to deny or confirm that China is transferring technology. However, Beijing is unlikely to take such a step openly. Meanwhile, the Russian Ministry of Defense uses microchips for dishwashers and fridges to produce its weapons.
These recently launched missiles from Russia and Belarus are called Tornado-S. They were opened by our military, and you can see that they are trying to do this technological cannibalism, and they are using chips and sensors from refrigerators, and of course this affects the accuracy and effectiveness of these weapons. The GPS coordinates are not correctly received.
While Russia is trying to get components for its missiles through grey schemes, Ukraine is receiving support from the international community in the form of imposing sanctions on Russia and supplying with the latest weapons. Reported by Roman Smoler, Yulia Hranovska, UATV News.